Okay guys, welcome back to another video. My name is Forrest Munnin and I'm currently 5 days away from a CFI check ride. I'm in a coffee shop today just because I feel like changing up my environment. So I'm going to be trying to talk a little bit louder. Okay, so I'm going to be holding my microphone like this. One day I'll invest in like a better mic, but for now we're going to use this. And today I'm going to be talking about short field takeoff distances and land distances. Okay, and you're probably needing this for your CFI asked for it, or you're using this for like a nav log or something like that. So I'm going to break this down very simply as I always do. You're going to go to your POH, you're going to go to the performance section, which is probably section 5 or 6 of your POH, and you go to short field takeoff distances, and you're going to see 3 different categories of weight here. You're going to see, and also don't get too distracted by this short field takeoff distance. You're not going to have like short field or long field takeoff distance, like, or normal field. This is just, they're putting this because that's going to increase our safety margin, okay? So don't worry about this too much, but you do need to pay attention to the takeoff distance, okay? This is all you need, is what I'm saying. You have 3 different weights. You have 2,500, 50, and then 2,400, and then 2,200. So you're asking yourself, okay, well, I know that on takeoff, my weight is probably going to be around, I don't know, 1,900 pounds, like 2,300 pounds. I always use the uppermost limit of this because this gives me the highest safety margin. So yes, my ground roll is going to be longer, and my takeoff distance is going to be longer, and it's going to be more difficult to clear a 50-foot obstacle. However, this is going to give us a higher safety margin, and your DPE is going to really like that you're using the heavier weight. So when they ask you, why are you using the 2,550 pounds instead of like the 2,200? Well, it's because this is giving us a bigger safety margin, okay? All right, first things first, I want you guys to pay attention to the conditions. So these are flaps 10 degrees, and this is just telling you how to do a short field, but we're not doing a short field, okay? Liftoff is 51, but you don't need to pay attention to this. Just know that they're just telling you this is the conditions for a short field, and this is the conditions for that, okay? But we're just using these numbers to give us the highest safety margin. Okay, before we even look at this, we need to look at the note. So prior to takeoff from fields above 3,000 feet elevation, the mixer should be lean to give maximum RPMs in a full throttle static run-up. So this means that when you're doing your run-up, put your power up to 1,800 RPMs, lean the mixture, and find your best power. A lot of people, they just standardize and they say one knuckle out. That's not correct. Okay, you have to lean it out. Find best power and then leave it there, okay? And note how far the mixture is coming out. Ask your CFI about this because this is something I've learned pretty recently, okay? Because I got stuck in the one knuckle out thing. All right, for operations on dry grass runway, increased landing distances by 15%. Okay, so if you're on dry grass runway, you're going to increase all of these distances by 15%. I would even say go as far as like 20 to 25%. Okay, the reason why I'm telling you this is I want you guys to pay attention to the notes because a lot of people will just read this and not pay attention to the notes at all. Okay, pressure altitude in feet. What pressure altitude are you taking off from? And I'm going to leave somewhere in here a link to the video that I just did on how to find pressure altitude, okay? Because if you don't know how to do that, you're going to need to find it out. So I'm not going to bother explaining that here because I already did it. But let's say our pressure altitude is 3,000, okay? I want you guys to pay attention to this right here, this 0, 10, 20, 30, 40. Okay, this is already telling us kind of what the density altitude, because remember, pressure altitude is the height above the standard datum plane, and density altitude is pressure altitude corrected for non-standard temperature. Here is our non-standard temperature, guys. So you don't need to. This is what I used to do. I used to be like, oh, pressure altitude, but wait, don't we need density altitude for this? And then I would take these density altitude numbers and I'd plug it into here, and then it would throw my numbers off. All you need is pressure altitude right here, and you need to know what temperatures you're going to be taking off in. Okay, so let's say I'm taking off in 10 degree Celsius conditions, okay? And if it's a 5 degrees, let's say you're at 5 degrees and you don't know whether to use 0 or 10, don't even interpolate. Just take the higher number because it's safer, right? So if I'm at 5 degrees outside Celsius, I'm going to take 10. The ground roll in feet is how long approximately it's going to take us to rotate. So let's say my pressure altitude is 3,000. I'm going to come over, ground roll, 1,215 feet. It's going to take me at least 1,215 feet. Now to clear a 50-foot obstacle, it's going to take me 2,000 feet of runway in order to clear that 50-foot obstacle. So it's usually like telephone poles or trees or something like that, okay? Let's go over to 40 degrees. Look at the number increase between the 10 degrees and the 40 degrees Celsius. So this is way hotter. This is like, what, 70, 80 degrees, maybe even low 90s degrees Celsius. It goes up 300 feet, okay? And then to clear a 50-foot obstacle, it goes up to 2,600. So it goes up 600 feet. And if you want to be extra safe, some people, okay, I did this on my check ride and my DP was like, okay, got it. But I actually added 50% to all of these numbers because these numbers are straight out of the shop. Cessnas that they have like minimal miles on them, right? Flight hours, and they're like brand new, right? But these, I mean, we put our planes through the absolute ringer, guys. Okay, so I would even take these numbers and increase them. I wouldn't do 50%. I would just do like 10% or something, and then just note that to your DP, okay? So this is for short field takeoff distance. And now we're going to go down here, and I'll talk about, see, you can see the other ones here. I'm not going to talk about maximum rate of climb here because we go into calibrated indicated airspeed here a little bit. Maybe I'll make another video for that another time. But I also want to show you guys, here's cruise performances. I'm going to go through that later too, okay, because that's a separate video. It's going to take too long if I do it here. And then let's go up right here and short field landing, and then it just gives us one weight in this POH at 2550 pounds. Okay, so same rules apply here, right? It shows you the conditions. Okay, great, we already understand that. And before we even look at this, I want you to go to the notes. Always look at the notes, okay? And then it says decreases distance 10% for each knot of headwind. Remember in my previous video, I told you guys about the effects of tailwinds and headwinds, right? It's obviously, you're going to decrease these distances for 10% for each 9 knot of headwind, okay? Because you have a headwind. You're flying into the air. You're flying into the wind, or the wind's being pushed at you faster. And then for operations with tailwind up to 10 knots, you increase the distances for 10% for each 2 knots. That's not a lot, guys. So think about it. If you have a 6-7 knot tailwind, that's going to go up like a lot, okay? And then for ground operations, okay, read that, okay. Same rules apply here. You're going to find your pressure altitude. You're going to go to your degrees here, right? And go from left to right. And there you go. Same rules as the top, okay? So this is how to find your short field landing distances and your takeoff distances. And remember, pressure altitude right here, it already has your density altitude here. You don't need to do any other corrections. And later I'll do some videos on some other stuff, okay? All right, guys. Hope that helped.